This video is sponsored by Surfshark. The Pixel 10 looks like it bridges the gap to the Pro model and offers a comprehensive package that many are looking for in a Google Pixel device. But on the surface and under the bonnet are two very different setups that, when you bring in the Pixel 9 Pro, now heavily discounted, could give you a bit of a headache in your decision making and purchasing experience. So today I want to talk about why you might be missing something with the Pixel 10. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, and the Pixel 10 is a strange device, but one that seems to be indicative of what we might expect from the new smartphones, or at least Pixels, going into the future. It has decent hardware, with software that does the bulk of the job to bridge the gap to where better hardware would normally get you, sort of like Nvidia does with its AI frame generation. And look how well that turned out. Anyway, point being, there are a lot of features on the Pixel that take the base model from good to great, but not in the way that you would traditionally expect, with bigger sensors and so on, and instead some pretty decent hardware but way more powerful software, and you would be forgiven for looking at the base model 10 and last year's 9 Pro on paper and thinking they're almost identical, because the truth is that they are not, and I want to dig into that. What's almost become a staple of a mobile phone toolkit these days has to be a VPN. And not only does Surfshark work on our beloved Android, but also macOS, iOS, Windows and more, Surfshark lets you activate on unlimited devices and access servers across 100 locations worldwide. It not only allows you to secure your connection via tunneling your traffic, but it also lets you use websites that are typically geo-locked or even access content that's only available on other versions of services like Netflix. Or if you're a Premier League fan like me, being able to go on holiday and log into the normal services you typically watch the game on is so easy with Surfshark. There are different plans to suit your use case, so check out the link in the video description to see what works best for you and to get Surfshark for yourself. And a big thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring today's content. Okay, so I'm not going to waste any of your time. If you thought the Pixel 9 Pro employed a lot of artificial enhancements to its images, it's another level with the 10. The 10 sensors across the board cannot compete with the 9 Pros due to their size and their resolution, and I think this is most noticeable in nighttime shots, where, don't get me wrong, the Pixel 10 is doing a phenomenal job, but they are unnaturally sharp in many scenarios and many areas comparatively, as you can see the software really doing its best to bridge the hardware gap. There's also quite a bit of noise in some of these images, and that's just going to happen when you put smaller sensors in the phone. The best way I can describe the 10's photos side by side with the 9 Pro is they don't look as real. There seems to be more processing going on, sometimes too far, whether this is AI or not. And in particular, in areas of high contrast with text, it's very clear that AI is doing a lot of the work, which, depending on your preference, could either be encouraging or a complete turn-off. And when you switch to selfies, the 9 Pro's front camera is, in my opinion, the best in a smartphone. It is superb, and though the 10's is good, it's just not on that level. Similarly to video, where in the base modes, both camera systems do a job at Ultra HD 30p and 60p, but when you employ Google's cloud-based video boost system on the Pro, it performs a heap of enhancements, including upscaling to 8K, and the Pixel 9 Pro's video is simply a cut above the stabilization and image quality that you'll find in the brand new Pixel 10. Because the 9 Pro was built to be just a bit more expensive, there are a few notable pros going with that over the Pixel 10. Its display is of a slightly higher resolution, with marginally smaller bezels as well, something that not everyone is going to notice due to the same size and brightness, but it's still worth mentioning. These are both tremendous displays with great colour, and at a very handy size if you ask me. Not too big for the pocket, but large enough to type easily and to enjoy games and content on. Perhaps the biggest difference with the 9 Pro is that is rated at 1 to 120Hz LTPO variable refresh rate instead of 60 to 120 on the 10, so in theory the 9 Pro should be better on battery life in this regard, but I'm going to be honest, I didn't really notice this in practice. So you get 33% more memory with the 9 Pro, 12 gigs for regular tasks and 4 gigs locked off for AI, versus 8 for regular tasks and 4 for AI with the Pixel 10. You get Wi-Fi 7 with the older model and 6E in the 10. There's 21 watt wireless charging with the old model as long as you have a Pixel stand, versus 15 watt Qi 2 on the 10 that uses different magnets. You of course get more capable camera hardware with the 8K video boost as well with the 9 Pro, but you do get camera coach with the Pixel 10. And because pixels drop in value so hard and the 10 is so new, it's quite easy to get a really good deal on the older model as well, whether that be new, certified refurbished, or used if you really want to maximize your bang for buck. I feel like the value argument is basically the strongest and biggest reason why you would consider going with the 9 Pro over the 10 in the first place. But with all of that said, there are certainly improvements on the 10, even if we're talking about the base model versus the Pro. If you opt for the 256GB SKU, you will get UFS 4.0 storage, which is something we've been asking for years now. Although I do wish that it was on all of the models, but there you go, can't have everything. And it basically is double the max bandwidth. So it's going to certainly help the phone feel snappier now, but very likely to do so in the future, particularly if you're in a particular region and buy a particular SKU that gives you zoned UFS, and that really helps long-term performance as well. The Tensor G5 benchmarks higher and is rated for higher performance, particularly in AI if that's your kind of thing. However, Google is still trailing Qualcomm and even Samsung's Exynos in pure CPU and GPU performance. So though there feels like a little bit of a boost to graphical performance in games, for example, it is not night and day and not a massive leap that I think many of us were hoping for with the 5th generation of Google Tensor chips. Or to put it another way, both are very quick, and I certainly wouldn't feel hard done by going with the 9 Pro, even though it is a year older chip. On paper, it's not as performant as the 10, and you are going to get more with the Pixel 10's G5, but it's not a major difference. The battery is also a bit bigger with a smidge higher wattage charging to go with on the newer model, the Pixel 10. And in my testing so far, I've noticed perhaps a little bit more in the tank with the newer model, but this could be margin for error. It really is that close. And the charging speeds are similar, I think because the extra wattage sort of bridges the gap with the slightly larger battery. So Google is rating both at 55% charge in 30 minutes. Neither phone is going to blow you away in terms of charging speed or endurance compared to OnePlus, iPhones, certain Samsung models, and of course all that stuff coming out of China. But both are easily all-day phones for me, though your mileage is going to vary based on how much you use your phone. For a bit of reference, I used mostly Wi-Fi, 120Hz display modes, manual brightness, and no smartwatches connected. My screen on time tends to be around 3 hours because my work is quite involved. I never really go over that. And I end the day with somewhere around 40% left in the tank before I charge my phone overnight using a cable. So take all of that information and extrapolate to find your predicted battery life. Both fingerprint scanners, super fast, and I'm so glad about that considering the experience that you had with the first few generations of Tensor Pixel. I've had no cellular dropouts, no Wi-Fi problems, Bluetooth has been solid on both with my earbuds connected. The Pixel 10 actually has Bluetooth 6 instead of 5.3 on the older model, though honestly I didn't notice any kind of practical difference in my usage. The Pixel 10 and the 9 Pro look really close, if not identical on paper, and it certainly doesn't help that physically they look very similar as well. The only real tell that you're not getting a Pro with the 10 is that it has a different back. It is a glossy finish instead of the matte one, and of course the camera visor is a matte one instead of a glossy, kind of like what Apple does with its phones. But you peel back the layers a little bit and you start to see the cut corners on the newer model. That's not the end of the world, I still think it's a very good phone, but it is worth talking about considering you can go right now and get a majorly discounted Pixel 9 Pro with similar, if not better hardware in many cases, for a lot less money. Which of these two phones would you buy if you had the money to spend? I'm not gonna lie, for my money personally, I'd go with the 9 Pro used because you're just gonna save a lot of money. New or discounted, I'm happy buying used anyway, not to mention the larger sensors as I bang on about all the time, but I'm also not a wireless charging guy, so Qi 2 is not a big draw to me. Maybe it is to you, let me know in the comments. And I never really buy a phone brand new at maximum price anyway. I'd just rather save my money, so I don't know, shoot me. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on this kind of situation. Are you in on the Pixel 10 series? Are you waiting for the Pro? Because the Pro does look pretty cool. And anyway, whilst you're down there in the comments, be sure to hit like if you enjoyed today's content, of course, and subscribe to never miss another upload on this YouTube channel. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I will catch you later. Cheers.